He beats the streets, he beats the odds, and the beat of his drums brought him to the top. What you don't know about drumming legend Zoro is going to rock your world. We're rocking out, and it's all happening now. Well, we have a rocking show for you today, literally. Our guest has toured and recorded with the giants of rock and roll, whether it was Lenny Kravitz, Earth, Wind & Fire, Jody Watley, or Bobby Brown. The drummer known as Zoro has been bringing houses down with his intense style and furious rhythm. He's been named the #1 drummer for 3 consecutive years in readers' polls and is the author of the best-selling and critically acclaimed series, The Commandments of R&B Drumming. But there is much more to this unique musician. In an industry that revolves around sex, drugs, and rock and roll, this man is known not only for his talent, but for his faith. So stay with us because Zoro is here. Mainstream rock legend Zoro is one of the most renowned and respected drummers of our time. And not only does he tear it up on stage, he drums up the name of the Lord like no one else.
Our ministry is every single day. It's on the freeway. It's overcoming the things of the world. That is our ministry.
When I'm really grooving and when I'm really feeling it, I'm just worshiping God. God is the creator of the groove, and my gift comes from God. So when I'm at the pinnacle of my playing and I'm really reaching the deepest pocket, my groove is just an extension of my praise towards the Lord.
Well, from poverty to fame, from pain to victory, and from unknown to legend, ladies and gentlemen, Zoro! Okay, well, they were telling me you had some really cool shoes on today.
Were they telling the truth?
Yeah, they were. Those are very, very cool shoes, audience, right? Very cool outfit indeed.
Thank
so
you.
You're very unique. When the Lord created you, He threw away the mold, didn't He?
You are correct. My mother would have agreed with you.
Well, and your mother had quite an influence in your life.
Absolutely.
Didn't she?
She was the one who gave me my faith. She had just a very simple faith, but she was a very encouraging woman, very happy and upbeat,
Yes.
and so a little bit of that rubbed off on me.
So I guess the first question is, how do you survive in an industry that is plagued with, if you will, so much sin?
I think because I got a chance to view that from a very young age, I realized that the world apart from Jesus has nothing to offer. There's just basically nothing there. It's emptiness. And it's sort of that scripture, 1 John 2:17. The world and its desires shall pass away, but the man who does the will of God will live forever. And I carried that with me. And as I got to see that the whole rock and roll lifestyle was about nothing, I just clung on to the Lord even more.
So when did you come to know the Lord?
When I was very little, I was about 7, 8 years old at like a church camp, a summer Baptist church camp, and they had.
Those church camps are great for kids, aren't
they? It changed my life.
Yeah.
It totally changed my life. But yeah, but I think I felt the presence of God long before I even understood, and His call was on my life from as far back as I can remember.
So you remember making a conscious decision that you were going to serve the Lord Jesus Christ?
Yeah, totally.
Wow.
I knew that, and I went up there, I was very tender-hearted, and I went up there crying, and I probably received the Lord 10 or 20 times because I wanted to be sure.
Right.
Every time they had an altar call, I was like, let me just double check,
How many went to the altar several times growing up? Yes, yes.
You can never be too safe.
Well, my husband says a lot of times the altar is not a place where bad people go. The altar is a place where people go to meet God. It's a meeting place between God and man. So I think that's awesome to have a church who has an altar that's open for kids to feel free to go down there and pray, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so then when did you realize that you had a gift to play the drums?
Very, very early on, I just.
Were you whacking everything when you were little?
Yeah, I was the kind of kid who, in the streets of, I'm always still that way, just making noise, tapping on.
Because every drummer I've ever met, their mother says they drove me crazy around the house, doing everything.
That's it, and my wife says the same thing. It's just rhythm is in me. But to me, I think like God's a big drummer because He's rhythmic. Everything in the universe has a sense of rhythm.
Sure.
But at the earliest age, I was playing on like those, remember the old Folgers coffee cans with the yellow lid, they would be empty, and I'd make like little fake bongos, turn on the transistor radio, and just play soul music. So I think I sensed it very early on, and I don't know, I guess God just placed a dream in my heart of music, and I knew that was one of my callings.
So at some point, an opportunity was there for you to enter into a world to play for some of the most famous people that we know.
Yeah.
How did that happen? How did those doors open?
I think, well, first of all, it was really just the favor of God.
Yeah.
He had, to me, He had purpose in all of it. And the purpose, I've been living that purpose for many years, but the purpose is to really bring the attention and glory back to Him through the instrument. He gave me a platform that He knew in advance that I would use to bring people into Himself. But I think really, I believed the dream. He placed a dream in my heart when I was a little boy, and I refused to let anything come in the way of the dream that He planted. So really, I lived by faith. I was very, very diligent. I practiced very hard, and I just believed that He could do what He said He would do.
So what was the first big break?
The first big break was probably in 1983. I got a chance to play with the lead singer from the group Earth, Wind & Fire. His name's Philip Bailey, who's also a Christian. And I was studying with the drummer of Earth, Wind & Fire at the time, who kind of took me under his wing, and he liked me. And then he just recommended me to go on tour with him. And it was a Christian tour, so it was awesome. And I was in the company of some of the world's greatest musicians, and that was like the start of it.
So then that opened the door. And that's kind of how it is. You hear of someone who's good and from another group, and then they'll recommend you to another and another, and it just kind of begin to open doors. And so, obviously, some of the music from some of these artists had to conflict with your belief system. How did you play in all of that? How did you reconcile that?
For me, well, first of all, I never played with any groups that were like devil worshiping, what I would define as totally demonic music. It was always, and most of the people I played with were at least professing Christians. They may have not been living it and walking it, but most of them came like from a church background.
Or they had an understanding of God.
They did, yeah, and they just weren't living for it, but they did have a revelation of it. But for me, I was always playing for the Lord. So I don't know who else is where their worship is going, but my worship was always going to God Himself as I played. So and I figured I could be a light in those places too. In all the groups that I toured with, I was always the one leading them to the Lord or teaching them about the Bible. And so I figured, well, God planted me with these people to be used.
So now you certainly have that peace in your eyes as I look at you. You can always tell a lot about people by looking in their eyes. So when you would be with these groups, say the ones especially who weren't serving the Lord, and they would say to you, well, why not drink, or why not try these drugs, or I mean,
Yeah.
how would you respond to them?
I was always just myself. I just really had the joy of the Lord in me. I didn't need that stuff. And because I grew up totally dirt poor with the 7 brothers and sisters and just a mother, I could never imagine wasting a second of my time or my life or my money on things that had no value, that wouldn't bring me something back. So while they were spending their money partying at the bar, I was buying records, taking drum lessons, buying books. I was investing. I was doing what the Proverbs talk about, exercising wisdom, and I was investing in myself and in building myself up and taking that opportunity to go to a higher level and develop a higher level of skill. So to me, it all was like nonsense. It wasn't hard for me to resist that stuff, because I was like, that's just leading to death.
You know, it's interesting because I found the Lord as a child as well, and I was raised in a wonderful Christian home. But like you, I never had a desire to me. I mean, as far as drugs, alcohol, partying, to me it was just, I wasn't even interested.
Right.
And so, but there are some people who could not have gone into that world
And survived. Absolutely. For people like us, it was just obvious. Sometimes wisdom is just obvious, and it just didn't interest me at all. I mean, I was like, this is nonsense.
Yeah. So your favorite artist that you played with?
I liked them all.
There's so many of them.
There's so many. I liked them all for different things I learned from them and different things I was able to impart to them. I loved working with Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons. I loved working with the New Edition back in those days, and I probably the most of all loved working with Lenny Kravitz. And he, that just musically, that was most gratifying, and personally, he was a great guy, and he's also a Christian.
So your favorite kind of music to play?
Anything that's anointed. And like right now, all I do is I immerse myself with worship music. I have 6,000 CDs in my collection. I'm over the top with everything. I'm super zealous. So I have this huge library. I love everything from Frank Sinatra to Earth, Wind and Fire. But lately, in the last couple of years, all I do is listen to worship music, because it just brings me into the presence of God. And no other music does that. And it makes me feel like I'm getting to know Him. And so. Mostly worship music is what I listen to now.
Well, we have a pretty rocking band here at Daystar.
I know.
Yeah.
I heard them last time. They sounded great.
I know. So were you wanting to get up there and play with us?
Absolutely.
We'll have to maybe do that sometime.
Yeah, I would love to come back and play with the band.
That would be awesome.
Learn a
with
couple of the anointed tunes and do it with the whole group.
Yeah, we'd love that as well. Well, he calls it the 3 Ds: discipline, diligence, and denial. When we come back, he's going to rock the house by showing us how it all paid off. Don't go anywhere. Zoro is performing next. Well, this is the moment we've all been waiting for. Performing on our music set, won't you welcome Zoro? fame, he never took his eyes off the Lord. And when we come back, we'll find out why. Stay with us. Father, growing up with drugs and violence near him and forced to live on welfare and food stamps, Zoro's passion for the drums and his music brought him through it all. But none of it would have been possible if it weren't for the encouragement of one very special woman in his life. Now, Z, tell us, who was that woman?
That was my mother, Maria. She was the one who gave me faith, and she just always said, you know, believe God, trust God, and he can fulfill the purpose and dreams of your life. So I believed her, and I believed God.
So now she then had a big impact on you because of her walk and relationship with the Lord?
Yes. And basically, you know, she just lived very simply, but she just always had faith. And we had a lot of hard circumstances, and she just always taught me that God will get you through it no matter what it is. This pain will pass. Whatever I was trialed, you know, whatever was trialing and troubling me in my life, she always just taught me to just believe and have faith and trust Jesus.
So now, is she still alive?
No, she passed away a couple of years ago.
Oh.
Yeah.
But you'll see her again.
I will. I'll see her in heaven, definitely.
That's right. Well, now, we mentioned earlier, right quickly before we go, the 3 Ds.
Yeah.
There's diligence, discipline,
and denial.
And denial. Talk about those quickly.
Those are the 3 things that I live by. And so basically, discipline is just disciplining yourself to develop the gifts that God gave you. Discipline yourself to study the Word of God. Discipline yourself to obey the voice of God. Without discipline, you can't achieve anything.
Yes.
Diligence is the ability to discipline yourself for the whole course of your life, the long haul, which is going to require patience, faith, endurance, and then denial, the last one that I live by. It's a two-pronged thing. First, denying the circumstances of your life and living by faith, seeing yourself as God sees you, a finished product. And the other part is denying the temptation to, once you're successful, to be filled with pride and arrogance. So deny yourself and serve up others with that gift. And then that leads to the 4th D, which is your destiny.
Okay. And in your destiny, what happens?
In your destiny, you fulfill the purpose that God has called you for this life on earth. To me, life is just a college prep exam for heaven. So he's preparing you, and earth is where you develop your stewardship, your character, your trust. And those are the kinds of things that I try to teach people all around the world and impart to them is live for God, fulfill your purpose, and fulfill your godly destiny, because the enemy has a destiny for you too. So you have to fight very hard to find that destiny that God has. But you're gonna overcome it with, you know, courage and hard work.
So this is just a warm up for eternity.
This is just a warm up.
And you're planning on playing with the heavenly host, right?
I'm planning on playing with the Lord when I get up in heaven. And this was just, I believe when God reveals himself, we won't even be able to comprehend how awesome it is. But this is my chance to worship him here now with this life and this instrument. And to me, I live every day as if it were my last. And then one day I know it will be.
Well, you know, you have heard it today from Zoro, and I know that for those of you who are watching, you wonder, does God have a plan for my life? I want to say that he does. And we have prayer partners that are here ready to pray with you. If you need prayer today, that's what we're here for. And I just pray that you've been encouraged by his testimony in his life. That's all the time we have for today. Remember to use the gifts God has given you as a blessing to those around you. Until next time, bye-bye for today. Haven't we loved Z today? Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.